Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back in with another comment board sermon. I'm just going to respond to a question that Flat Earth Boxer Revived left, and don't really have anything planned as far as how I'll respond, but I'll just kind of scan through my history with the 501c3 church because that's what his question's related to. He's like, when you worship the 501c3 God, what kind of functions were you serving in church? What kind of conversations were you having with people? And how were you received by the people? And this was a good question because first of all, it gets me to remember, some of those experiences that ultimately I'm trying to block out and never have to think about again. But it just shows, I think, for a lot of us that we were in that, church, the 501c3 church. And what he means by that is that's a tax exempt status. And so that's, doesn't necessarily have to be of Christianity, but it limits ultimately what that group can talk about, and they have rules, and so once you don't, you step outside of those boundaries, then you could potentially lose your status. And so for numerology people, 5 plus 0 plus 1 is 6. And C3 is 3 because it's third letter in the alphabet, so you have 6 6. Okay, 501 is 6, and then you have C3, which is 33, and you add that together, you have 6. So that's 6 6. So the numerology is everywhere. And that's ultimately what it is. It's 666. It's not spiritual. Okay. And so they're set up, ultimately by God. And so, those experiences were like, I would say very, very similar, and then when I look back on them, they're like extremely creepy, just like when I think about them and what I've gone through. And that's why I would never want to be brought back onto this earth the way that the earth is. And so that's one of the many, many reasons why I believe this is our last judgment that we're all living out. And it's a final one, and it's definitive, and there's no going back on it. So it's important. But because they were all just ultra cringe and ultra stupid, and then it just, depending on the day, it was one or the other. Ultimately both. But so here's the story with me. Like I think I mentioned in a past video, I started getting some interest in Christianity prior to undergrad. Just based on a couple of people that I knew who were, into the Bible. And so, I went away, to undergrad to London, Ontario, from a town called North Bay, Ontario. And so this is where for me, again, I'm just going to put my feet, in those shoes of the person that I was then. Within the first week or two of the dorm that I was in, Saugeen Maitland Hall at University of Western Ontario. It's just a huge dorm. It's basically like just a massive prison, and it's disgusting. I wouldn't even want to go and visit. I visited Western again after I graduated, but I wouldn't want to go near this building. But anyway, I was living in that. And so one group came and then offered to like take a few people out, and then do like an obstacle course kind of thing, like just to get people outside because it was a nice day. And then we didn't know like why they, rounded people up, and I was just like, I have nothing else to do. And so, it was like the first week, and they call it O week, like orientation week. And so, I just went, and then to meet other people, on my floor and get to know them and stuff. And so they put us through some retarded obstacle course. Again, I would never do any of these things. I wouldn't even go to college, of course. But we did that, okay, and like we played some games and all that. And then at the end, they bring us over to this table, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. These are the Christians, okay, because everything is just is a joke. It's a clown. The whole world ultimately is an obstacle course. But it's like, and then that's the way that they draw people in. And so I was like, oh, okay, so this is Campus Crusade for Christ. And then they were like, yeah, if you want to take any of these materials, they obviously had Bibles and like different material from Campus Crusade. And so I took one of the cards, and then I started meeting with one of their, it was not just Campus Crusade. This actually is relevant to why they did that stupid obstacle course. It was a group called Athletes in Action. So Campus Crusade is the broad ministry that operates, I don't know, maybe worldwide, but definitely in Canada and on campuses. And then so this group was a subgroup of them called Athletes in Action. So it's targeting Christian athletes on campus, at Western. And then there was a guy who led that. I believe his name was Bill Underwood. And so I took his card, and then I started meeting up with him. And he's a little bit older. And still aware, and young enough to know what it's like to be, in college and stuff. But then he decided, after I started kind of meeting with him one-on-one, he's like, why don't you meet with somebody younger, because he now was like, oh, we got a potential Christian, we got a potential Christian here. We can save this soul kind of thing. This guy needs, more one-on-one, attention or whatever. And so he wanted somebody younger, and then, who's in college as well. And so he, he introduced me to this guy, Nate, and it's not like his name matters, but his name was Nate. Okay. And then, so, it's just amazing for me to relive these moments, because it doesn't even feel like it was me. Because like, I wouldn't even look at these people in the eye now. I would just be like, you're stupid, and then walk away. But, anyway, so I met with this guy, Nate. We had, I think, like weekly or monthly meetings or something like that. It was just, again, it's just, this whole process is totally cringe, because first of all, they don't know anything about the Bible, but like, they're just, introducing me to like, the scriptures and all that kind of stuff. So I've already read some of the Bible at that point, so I'm not totally new to it. And then I had pretty deep questions, because I came from a Hindu background. And then, I was like, well, how could Jesus be the only God, and all that? And like, how could this be the exclusive truth? And I was like, well, how is that possible? And so it was offensive, but also, attractive at the same time. Well, I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a bold claim, that Christ makes, of course, in the Bible itself, not just the people representing him. But so anyway, I started meeting with this guy, Nate, and I remember, this is ultra cringe. Remember, we were having lunch in one of the restaurants on campus, and out of nowhere, he's like, tells me that like he's really into like pornography, and like he's struggling with that. And I was just like, I didn't even know what to say, because I'm like, well, wait a minute, I thought that you were supposed to be mentoring me. That's the way I kind of felt, and I'm like, it was just awkward, and that kind of thing. And so the weird thing about it is like, it was weird, it's like, again, I'm not saying people to go and do that and all that. Like, it's not right, to do that, and it's evil. And then the reality is that a person, even at his age and my age, we should be married already, in the olden times, okay? And not that old. So we don't have to do those kind of things, and then I put myself in that too. And so again, this is not to justify it, is to explain, why that happens. Because if you're in like a relationship or you have many wives, you don't even think about that. And then if you have a system like that, then you don't have men or women that are involved in that industry, which is obviously what it is. And so it's not even there, okay? And so that's what I know now. But like, listening to him, it was like he just literally murdered somebody, and it's like a somber mood. And I was like, dude, what did you do, man? Like, that kind of thing. And it was just the weirdest conversation that I was like, all of a sudden I was like trying to figure out like, first of all, why is he telling me this? And like, what am I supposed to do? What are you going to do, I guess, or whatever. And like that kind of thing. And so it was just very creepy, that whole conversation. And, again, not to say that it's not something that, we should talk about, but like, it was like so serious, like literally like that he took somebody's life and he's like, needs me to help hide the body kind of thing. That's what it felt like looking back on it. I remember that conversation vividly. It wasn't that long ago. So that was cringe, and so, anyway, just throughout that time in my first year of undergrad, I was reading the Bible on my own. And I think a lot of it for me was just partially being maybe homesick, because like I was away from home, and then like, school was like stressful, because like I basically like high school was like fairly easy for me, and then I was like, not that undergrad was really that hard, but it was a little bit harder, and so not that I was like struggling necessarily, but I wasn't in high school. I was getting like almost 100 on everything, and then in undergrad I was like working hard just to get like close to 90%. We don't have like a GPA system in Canada as they do here. But so that was like a little like, oh, okay, we'll have to like recalibrate. Okay, I'm not going to get 100 like I did in high school, because it was stupid. But so, I was going through that, okay, because that was my God. Okay, it was like school. So, until I quote replaced it with Jesus. And then so, at the end of the year, I just read one of their pamphlets, and then I quote accepted Jesus into my life, whatever that means. Okay. And so I was now a quote Christian. I remember waking up the next day, walking to class, and I was like, it doesn't feel any different. Like, well, what's going on here kind of thing. Like, I was just literally like a lost soul, like just confused kind of thing. But it's all part of the journey, to get me here ultimately. But so I was like a Christian now because I read something from a pamphlet from Campus Crusade, okay? And so then I started getting creepy myself, and then if I wasn't already at that point. So now I was like, well, I have to start like basically being an idiot, right? Because that's the job of a Christian, is to be retarded. And I see that on YouTube. So it's definitely still happening to this day, even though, we know a lot of things, there's still retards out there. So then I was like, of course, I was the guy now, like policing other people, and like my Muslim friends and all that. And like, just, I wasn't excessive, I don't think. I'm sure they would say differently, because even a little bit of it is ultra cringe. But that's when it started. I was like, oh, well, now it's my job to evangelize the world, okay? And that kind of thing. And like, those Campus Crusade meetings were like cringe too, just like all the other ones I'm going to describe. You basically sit around and say, like, we're the athlete Christians, and look at all these like other athletes who are lost, and like look how we have to interact with them. And it's like basically a pity party and that kind of thing. And it's like they're all demons, all of them, okay? But like that's what those cool Bible studies ended up sounding like. And then I was not an athlete, but they still let me go to those Bible studies, and I was like, oh, I was the smart guy kind of thing. Like that's the role that I was playing. It's like, oh, we don't have an athlete, but like, this is Shrek. Like he's smart. He's an engineer and this kind of thing. So like, it was just all these different characters, it was like nothing actually about the Bible, that was being taught. And then wrestling with the incredible message, of the Bible, and then the anger ultimately of that God and how he's going to express that at some point. So that type of thing. So that's first year. Okay. That's me. I'm now a quote Christian. Okay. And I'm just basically a walking zombie. Okay. Just pushing more of the lies of the 501c3 church. And second year, I was now in a relationship with that girl, and like she was a bit more like into Christianity in terms of like going to church. So we started going to a church in London, Ontario. And then because they had a bus that would come and pick us up, round us up, okay, and take us to, I believe it was called North Park Community Church. And so that church was just a usual guy, like, just feel good stuff, yada, yada, yada. And then so like nothing that really challenges anybody, or like actually, he said the same thing literally every week over and over again. And then we sort of got, involved in some campus ministries, but not really that much. I think we both, deep down, we knew that Christianity was a joke, and like just laying on burdens and just like kind of spoiling our fun, so to speak. And so I think she was not really into it, and I would not be surprised if now she doesn't even talk about Christianity. And I think that that's the case from the little that I know of where she's at. But and kind of the same as me, like as 501c3 Christianity, I don't want to talk about because it's stupid, and it just lays on silly burdens, and just it does actually like spoil the fun. It spoils the fun of knowing the real God, and then the way he really operates. And I would have known that just being in college, I'm in enemy territory, much less like the Christians swirling around, the Campus Crusade and the InterVarsity people. So after second year, I think I sort of turned down the religion a little bit, and then just focused on school for my third and fourth year when she was out of the picture. And then I went to grad school. Okay. Then now I'm moving to Houston, Texas, of all places. And then in my dorm, in my grad apartments where I live, the Rice grad apartments, I saw a advertisement for a Bible study, specifically for grad students. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's time. Maybe this is a quote sign, to like give Christianity, another try, so to speak. And so I went, to those Bible studies, and then I just started developing, friendships with those grad students, and then we had Bible study every week. And then, after the first year, second year went by, and then, I've been to a lot of them at that point because I was going almost every single week. And then, I developed quite strong friendships with that group. And then, especially when you're in grad school, you were kind of like, that's all you do is just you're around other grad students. Most people don't have families and stuff. So we became friends, and that kind of thing. And so one of them, like I was like the best man at his wedding and stuff like that. So like, it was not just like, hey, religious kind of thing. Like we would hang out outside of Bible studies and religion and stuff like that. And then, I would go to this church, First Christian Church, which is literally right beside Rice grad apartments. And I would walk there because I didn't have a car. And so that church was the same thing, but it was like really old people, which is kind of funny, like, because I don't know, it's just the demographic of that church. Like, it didn't attract any young people. It was just really like old people and stuff. And like, I was fine with it, but it was the same old sort of rigmarole. I just went there to kind of, check that box, because that Bible study would ask, like, hey, like, do you go to church and all that? And if you didn't, that would be a problem, kind of thing. Not a big problem, but like they would be like, you should, kind of thing. So anyway, I went there to sort of check that box. I did not learn a single thing, of course, about anything in the Bible. And then, I got baptized in that church, actually. And so, but, throughout this time, we're doing community service. I'm like playing along, I'm playing the Christian role again now and like all that. And then again, it's a lot of it is because of struggles with school. Cause like now, like it was really hard. Like school was extremely difficult. Like for me at, in a place like that, because you're around some of the smartest people on earth. And so, like I told in my previous videos, the best student in my first year grad cohort was an undergrad who would now go on to get his PhD at MIT, and now he's a professor at Caltech. And so he would be literally one of the smartest people on this earth, at that time and now. And I was like, whoa, okay. It's like, it's literally like you're like a good golfer, at your local course, but then you go out and play against people who come from all over the world, and you're like, wow, okay. Did pretty well, at my home course, but like not as good as these people. So, and I think religion was there to sort of absorb that, those kind of, that uncertainty, and all that humbling that happened. And so, I would invest quite a bit of time in that. And so at the end of my final year of grad school, I became the president of the Rice Grad Fellowship, because again, I was involved in everything. And then we would have these talks where we would invite professors to come and teach, and give us, inspirational sort of sermons about how to be a, quote, Christian in academics, because there's a big debate between science and the Bible. And I didn't know at that time. I was in my mind at that time, I was like, why is that such a big deal? But now obviously I know with the flat earth debate, of course, there's a massive, bumping of heads between science, so-called science, what we know now, and the Bible, and so now it's very, very clear that those two are diametrically opposed. But, they would like try and encourage me, and then other people mostly who are going into potentially a field of academics, PhD, and being a professor, how to navigate that world, because it's very anti-Bible. One of the famous professors is actually Jim Tour, who, like, I saw a video from Call for an Uprising recently, that because he's doing all this different, nano related stuff, and like he's trying to like mark food, and then to like track the food, and like he's one of the famous professors at Rice, but he's also an outspoken Christian. He calls himself a Messianic Jew, which I don't even know what the hell that means, but he's an actor. Okay, he's a Satanist ultimately, but he was like the god of Christianity on campus. Is similar to like a person like Francis Collins. And so he was involved with our ministry, and like he would come and speak to those once in a while. And then we would get others. There's not that many Christian professors, but there were some. And so anyway, I was involved, in setting those up, and then all that kind of stuff. And so that was my, quote, duty, and I was doing it, And so again, now I'm like basically drowning in 501c3 Christianity. Like I'm literally like Satan's chief minion in the 501c3 church on Rice campus. Okay. And then, I started becoming, known to like other campus ministries. And then I became friends with the guy who runs Campus Crusade, because the group that I was involved with was run by InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, which are two big, campus organizations, Christian organizations. And so me and this other guy, Kurt, he played basketball and stuff like that. So like, I became friends with like these people, and like they were all like, I would consider them at that time, friends, because like it was just not just about religion. Obviously, that was a big part of it, but I do remember some conversations I had with Kurt, and then really all throughout my Bible studies, like I would challenge the group, and then we would get into some arguments and stuff, and then we knew to like not go there. But there were a couple other people. I remember this one guy, Thomas in particular, who like we would push the boundaries, because we knew that the other people there were people from like the Bible Belt, and they grew up in Christian families, and like I didn't, and he had a different viewpoint as well, coming from more like a Catholic sort of background. And so this Bible study was like all different types of Christians. And so I just was a freewheeler, like I would just ask certain things. Again, not nowhere near to the extent now, of course, but like, but people like that because they knew that I was quote unquote real or whatever that means. But like, I just like similar to the way that I'm now, but just to a greater degree because like now I have access to more and more truths. But at that time, like I still challenged the norm. And so I could always sense that I wasn't comfortable, in that group because we were only allowed to read a certain things. I would always, whenever I was leading, I would always take the opportunity to like pick controversial books. I would go to Revelation or Daniel, and then we would leave it open because at that time, I didn't have the sequence, of course, but and so it was more sort of collaborative, like, hey, what do you think? And that's the way we would literally run the Bible studies in a very academic way, and I like that aspect of it. Again, no one had the right answer, so like we didn't know what the hell we were reading at that time, but that's the way I was, and that's the way I am. So I see obviously elements of my personality during that time, but they were all lies, and then we weren't allowed to go into obviously like conspiracies or like talk about the evil and all that kind of stuff in the church or like anything like that. And then I remember this is funny because like one of the campus ministers who was in charge of our group at the, the top dog, he basically would like never do anything. Like he just literally was like trying to get donors and like take pictures and show, like show face that, that he's part of the group. But like he was essentially, in my opinion, just milking his donors. And then like I called him out on it. This guy named, I won't even say his name, but it's, and then like, it was like hilarious. Like he basically like shriveled up kind of thing. Cause like he knew somebody like called him out for like not being a part of our group. Cause like I was doing a lot of the work, setting up all the, the talks with all the professors. And like, he was like nowhere to be found kind of thing. Like, but he was still getting donor money because like, he was using our group and another group at a different university to like show people like, hey, I'm involved with this campus group. And so I was still like that, and then like it was awkward, because then I started getting closer to the other leader on the Campus Crusade side, not the InterVarsity side. And then he actually felt like that person was encroaching on the ministry because, it's like, and he had to go and check him, like get away kind of thing. So this is what the politics at the top. And so this is what I started realizing, like Christianity is stupid. Okay. Like it didn't happen in a day, but I started realizing like, this is not about the Bible, at all. And so it's the same thing that I see now. It's just, they're just different characters. Okay, now it's the flat earthers and the bald earthers and the Hebrew Israelites and yada, yada, yada. It's the same thing. It's not about the Bible. Nobody, when they type questions, like I appreciate this question because it's like nostalgic, but like nobody asks me anything academic about what I teach. They're like, oh, you're so mean and this and that. And like, it's like everything around the Bible. It's like all this kind of stuff. Oh, I told you so. Like, right, the hand will say. He'll never comment on the actual teaching, and like, hey, what do you think, and like give me feedback or anything like that. But he'll be definitely join at the end of the year and say, oh, I told you were wrong. Okay, so this is why I don't want to be here. And it's a consistent narrative that everybody's stupid. Nobody has any answers. And so I present the quote answer, which I believe God told me. And if that ends up not being true, then I'm comfortable walking away because I've tried. Nobody knows a single thing. All you people are dumb. Okay. No one can say the living God told me this. And then we know by the quality of that person that did come from God. And then we can read it in the Bible and then confirm it. I haven't heard that once in my whole life. Okay. And it's not like I've been everywhere and seen everything, but with the path that my life has taken me on, I haven't heard it, and it's nowhere close to it. It hasn't even come close. The only one that has is what I'm saying. And so that's exciting for me, and I'm honored, that I have the possibility to even be a vessel, for that truth. And so, but just know that that's been happening, and then when you are around that, you get a sense for BS. You don't even need the person to finish their sentence to know that this person's talking BS. It's the same in the academic world in grad school. It's like, when I was like there, I didn't really, really want to be there in terms of like learning about the stuff. I was like, get me a PhD. That's what I was in, a PhD program. I didn't care about the topics as much as I should as getting the PhD. If I cared about the topics as much as getting the degree, I probably would have gotten a PhD, but I was just going there to like turn the crank and like, oh, just hand me a degree kind of thing. It's the same with religion. Okay. I literally rarely, except for the odd one here and there, once a year, does anybody comment on the actual mechanics and like the technical aspects, the theology of what I'm teaching. It's all everything else. And then so there's either that's not true, which is what I'm teaching, or everyone else is stupid. And that's my conclusion for now. And so that's not going to change if Christ isn't returned by the end of the year, that everyone else is stupid. I'm just going to add myself into the mix. Okay. That doesn't mean that you all of a sudden are all brilliant, all you retards outside. Okay. This circle of what I'm teaching, you're still retarded. And I'll still definitely say that to your face without a doubt. But then I'll add myself into that. I'm with you guys now. Okay. Like we've all been duped. Okay. Because you clearly don't have the answers. Okay. It's just like Kanye said this way, you don't got the answers way, and that kind of thing. So that's the way I view it. Okay. And so that's been happening from the get-go. And so nobody has the answers that I've seen. Of course, God's truth has to be somewhere. It doesn't mean that the Bible's not true. That's not what my next conclusion would be. I would just say that the elect are completely off the grid. They're not on YouTube. They're not in a public place, which I think is very reasonable either way. And so that's what I would then believe as I'm golfing full time kind of thing. So, but that's my situation. So it was very political, and it was cringe because you're fighting for like who gets credit for nothing. Okay, because like nothing was actually being taught and that kind of thing in those Bible studies or anything like that. And so that's essentially grad school for me was my divorcing of religion, because after that I was just basically exhausted, and then now I have like a full-time job, and I was like I'll just like let me feed the corporate God kind of thing, and then I just didn't go to church and stuff like that. But what happened again, it's like always like I'll leave kind of thing or take a few steps away and then I'll get brought back, and then I'll take a few steps away and then I'll get brought back. And so now like I'm interested in like women and getting married and stuff, and so I met this girl who she worked for Ravi Zacharias, and so then I was like admired, the fact that she had such, strong religious background, and like she did that full time, for her job, for her vocation. And so, I just then started kind of getting back into like religion and stuff like that. Not like heavy. And I think in a way that's what she liked, because I was like a breath of fresh air, because I was a quote Christian, but I was not like one of those hardcore Bible thumpers at that point. And so, but I was still admiring, her faith. And then, because of all the stuff that I've been through, and then my background. So it's kind of like a win-win. We had a weird sort of appreciation, for the amount of the other person's faith. But ultimately that led to our demise, because like I would turn back into that person, that I was, where I'm like challenging everything, and that kind of thing. And like, that was maybe cute at the beginning, but like not so much down the road. So, and we just had very different views of Christianity, and then mine was very negative ultimately, but hers was actually, and I know that after like getting to know her a little bit, but that was her job. And then now with what came out with Ravi Zacharias, that's what she sensed in her ministry, just because you can feel it. When you're in an evil place or an evil corporation, you just feel it. And so, because it's not about God, okay, it's not about the truth. And so that's why she was looking to ultimately get married, is to like have somebody to like now allow her to get out of that job. And so, because she didn't like it, because obviously she's teaching lies. And then I'm assuming the whole vibe in the ministry was like, Ravi's like a predator. And so I'm assuming she was hired because she was attractive, and that kind of thing. And so I'm not saying she's not smart, but like, I'm assuming Ravi like looked at that kind of thing, literally. And so, because it's been known, like it's been proven that he was, a sexual predator. And then, who knows what other things that he's done once that much has been conceded. So anyway, got back into religion, during that brief window of time, a year or two. And then, because of my interest in her. And then after that, I was just like, I'm not doing that. I was exhausted. I was like, this whole thing's stupid. All these people are fake. I'm fake. And so just cut out the fake. Okay. Which was the religion part. And so my religion went basically on mute, for many, many years. And, it was fine. It's like, I didn't become like a horrible person and all that. I was still the same person. I just didn't do the Bible studies and that kind of thing. So, I think like maybe once in a while I would go to a church called Ecclesia, which is not far actually from me now. They moved, but I wasn't like going weekly or running Bible studies or doing anything like that. And I always had an interest in, community outreach and stuff. So like that's another reason why I knew that the whole thing was fraudulent, because it wasn't focused on that. If there's any religious group that does not have a strong sense of community service and giving back, in a physical and tangible way, then I know that that is fraudulent. Okay. If they're just like, oh no, we got the truth, then just come here and then that's all you need. Or like the Christians in my grad program, we're the smartest. We've got it all figured out, and all that. That's, though that's not the right attitude. Okay. And I know that obviously now. And then I've sensed that, and I still see that to this day, that all these people on YouTube that are Bible people, but in real life, they're not like that. They're not charitable. They're not real people. They're just sucking, from others. Then I know that they're obviously actors and false prophets, like a lot of the Hebrew Israelites and people like End Times Teacher. And then it's like, it's not even hard, to like isolate those evil people, now, especially with me being around it, being a part of it for many, many years. So all of that I would assume is a training ground to like get a better sensitivity for the actual truth. And then the whole trick to it this whole time was like, just read it yourself. That's what I try and encourage people to do. Read it yourself. And if you're the person who doesn't want to read it, then you have to hope that the book's not true. Okay, good luck to you. You might be right, but that's what you should do. Okay. And so whether I'm here or not, or whether what I teach comes true or not, read it yourself. That's the whole thing that's happened, that I've realized through this whole thing. And then once I did read it myself, and then only made, that God's opinion, the one that matters, then I believe then God told me something that was unique, and then I would never have figured out in those Bible studies, brainstorming or being around the smartest people or whatever. I would never have figured it out. So, and they wouldn't either. So that's brought me, to this point. And then came back to the Bible because of flat earth, because I needed an explanation for that. And so this is what's amazing, is that God clearly is using, not just for me, obviously for many people, times of uncertainty and frustration to draw us back to religion, even though we're repulsed by it. And then we just keep coming back, and then we're like, this doesn't feel right. Then we come back with something new. And then in the most recent case, it's the flat stationary earth. It wasn't a person or my interest in a woman or something like that. It was the physical earth itself. Just looking at it and be like, what they're saying on TV is not it. Okay. And I need an explanation for that. Like, why is everybody on TV lying? And then why is the earth telling me this, quote unquote, telling me this, that it's not moving? And so that's amazing, and so this is the nice thing about this run, this like last run that I'm making with the Bible, is that it's rooted in something real, and physical. It's not rooted in another person's opinion or anything like that, or like my romantic interest in a female or something like that. So that's amazing, and then so I have the best chance now, with it. And it's my last chance ultimately from a financial perspective. And I'm excited by that. But, it's rooted in something very, very real and something very, very obvious. So all those years I was always uncomfortable because like I'm going out on a limb, and I'm not trying to get pity because a lot of people have gone through a lot more than what I've gone through. My life has been fairly calm, I would say, thankfully. Haven't been abused or anything like that. No one's touched me in that. Literally no one has ever hit me in my life, and I've never hit anybody. And then that's not going to change. Okay. And so I've gotten through, and a lot of people have dealt with that, and that makes me very sad. So I'm not trying to trivialize what other people go through, but, it's like all those years, like I was like going against my family, and like what they believe and stuff. And so like I was going out on a limb, so to speak. And then now it's like, I didn't have any, like, I couldn't prove to them that what I'm entertaining is like correct, because I was just some guy trying to read the Bible and like learn about the truth and all that, the true religion. But now it's like we're rooted in something that's obviously true, which is the flat stationary earth. And so, I mean, we have so much ammo, to like go this way, go with what the Bible says. Okay. And then that's just the beginning. Mystery Babylon, teachings on hell, this narrative that's going on. I mean, the list goes on, okay? Because to get answers to those questions, it becomes harder and harder to explain those with 501c3 Christianity, of course. and then, good servant will try, okay? And then it's impossible to explain it without spirituality, okay? For somebody, who I've known, throughout all these years, he believes that, okay? And so this just shows how fraudulent the 501c3 church is, because ultimately it's not spiritual. That's what I realize now. And then, it's proven to me in many, many examples, but now we can't explain those things, the earth, America being evil, the world being evil, this narrative, and like the list goes on. We can't explain the TV being filled with lies without a spiritual answer, without a big God behind it, because the evil is so obvious and is broad. And so we're firmly rooted, in the Bible, like me, and then, the few people that come by my channel who I believe are sincere. I believe Flat Earth Boxer's sincere. I just see aspects of myself in him that he should avoid. I was that person years ago. I would buy these gospel tracts. I would buy them from like people like Ray Comfort and Kirk Cameron. They had a show called The Way of the Master, and like they would sell their gospel tracts. Okay, and I would buy them, and then one of them involved like putting a $1 bill in it, and then handing it out to people. So they open it and they're like, oh, there's money, and then they'll read it, and then maybe it's like a marketing campaign tactic. And that's what I would do. Not just that, but I would hand out gospel tracts. Like I was that guy, for a point of time in my life. And like that's wrong, because that's not what the Bible teaches about salvation. Because it's not wrong to go and teach people about salvation, but you have to teach them what they're being saved from, which he does not teach. Okay, and so that's why I say that he's an actor, or he needs to get up to speed quickly, because you cannot go on the streets or anywhere and say Jesus is going to save you if you accept him into your heart, because that's not the only thing that's required. You're going out there and promising something to someone that you will not be able to fulfill, and God's certainly not going to fulfill it. Ultimately, salvation's for God's elect. Other people will be taken away, not just men, women as well, but that's who it's tailored for. And so if you want salvation, or if you want to offer it to somebody else, you have to explain to them that group. What are some of their characteristics? They're going to know that they're in hell. They're going to be Israelites, so they're going to care about God's laws. And it's going to be God's law or the death, okay? And then they're going to be the type that follow God wherever he goes, even if that place is scary, okay? And you're alone and that kind of thing. There's no food. That's the kind of people that are going to be saved. And so they have to be truthers. You have to hate evil, okay? And then you have to understand that it's God or nothing. Those are the type of people, and it's an event that's going to happen in the last days, which I believe is going to happen very, very soon. And so it's not just saying the prayer and then something, okay? Because every soul goes back to God, every single one, because it's God's energy. We know we're a character in God's movie, and so if you're not teaching people that, then you're a character and you're an actor, and you're definitely not of the elect. Anybody, I'm not trying to pick on Flat Earth Boxer, but if you're doing that, then you're just a troll. You're just going out there and just trolling the Bible, like people like End Times Teacher do. And so that's on you to fix that if you're still doing that. I'm talking to him now specifically. So I used to do that, but that's against the Bible. So anything that's against the Bible, God's going to be like, I understood why you didn't read it in the past, because you weren't allowed to ultimately, or else you wouldn't be in any of those groups and you'd just be by yourself. But we have to read it now, okay? Don't just go run out with a loudspeaker. I'm talking to you, Flat Earth Boxer. Why don't you go and read the Bible on your own and come to some conclusions first before you go and try and fix other people? You don't have a clue what the hell you're talking about, okay? And if you did, you would put it up there and teach and then put your life behind it, okay? And then you need to get to that point first. And then you now maybe have the ability to go out in public, but then you'll realize once you do that, what you've received now, no one's going to understand it. No one, even the people that come by my channel who claim to be Christians, don't truly believe that God's going to put noisome and grievous sores on a majority, billions of people on earth, and then burn them with fire. Okay, but that's what the Bible says, if you haven't figured that out yet. But so who's going to go and accept that if you go out on the street? No one, okay? And the only people that would go and be stupid enough to do that are people that don't actually believe that either, okay? So you need to figure out what's going on with you, okay? And then don't just be a stupid troll, okay, like I was. The Bible's not to be trolled, okay? This is a sacred book. Either it's the word of God or it's not. There's no in between. Half of it's true or something like that. No, either the beginning and the end of it's true or it's not, okay? And guess what? From the beginning to the end, it talks about fire. in Genesis talks about fire on a place called Sodom, and at the end it talks about modern day Sodom, which is America. Okay, and then it's obvious. And then so that's another thing that you'd have to tell people, okay, especially if you're in America, that that's part of salvation, because that's where the salvation's headquartered, okay, and all that kind of stuff. So that's your responsibility. You have to figure that out. But from what I see, you're just goofing around, okay? And so, no, that's not our job to just go and yell random stupid things, and then make the gospel look more ridiculous. The gospel's for a very few humble, people, okay, they're quiet about their confidence in God, okay? And then when people ask them, they'll tell them, okay? But they're not sitting on a loudspeaker blaring just random nonsense to people, and so they can get, 1,000 or 2,000 views on YouTube. A lot of you people would be better off just for just a month, a year, just go by yourself and read the Bible yourself. And first and foremost, decide, is that the Word of God? Okay, and ask God to tell you. And then interpreting it actually is not that hard. But you have to understand that God is extremely angry with the world, okay, because he sent his son into it and then they killed him mercilessly, okay? And they're planning to do that again if you haven't read the end of it, okay? And so you have to figure that out, okay? So don't make the same mistakes that I did. That's why I'm tough on people. But, that's essentially where I, the backdrop of what brought me here in a little bit more detail. And so, it was a good trip down memory lane. He's like, what kind of conversations were you having with people and how were you received? Not well, okay? And that's why if you're in the 501c3 church and affiliated with any way and people are not offended by you, then there's something wrong with you, not with them. They're doing their job. Why are you not doing yours? And if you're with the quote-unquote Hebrew Israelite, any group on earth, the Latter-day Saints, the Hebrew Israelites, and they're not offended by you, then there's something wrong with you, not with them, because they're doing their job. They should spit you out, okay? Every quote group, every alphabet soup group, 501c3, they quote Black Hebrew Israelites, Messianic Jews, these non-denominational Christians, the Catholics, the Anglicans, the Latter-day Saints. If you don't talk to them for 5, 10, 15 minutes and then they're like, no, get the hell away from me, then there's something wrong with you, with what we know now in the world, not with them, because they're doing their job to be deceivers. And so the Bible says, come out of her, my people. Okay, and that's what I remind people. You maybe don't have to do it on the timeline that I am, but I want people to understand that if I am one of the elect, then that is going to happen. And if I'm not, then the elect are crying even more than me. Can you imagine that? So that's why I know that Christ has to return very, very soon, because I'm like a very low bar, a low threshold for the righteousness and the complaining and then the knowledge of the Bible. But that's still like a decent threshold. Okay. It's not like I don't know anything. Okay. It's not like I don't care about anybody or anything like that. And so God's elect, the unique thing about them is they do actually care the most about other people. They do care about their enemies, okay? Because they don't want their enemies to be in lies and then to suffer the fate of what liars will get according to the Bible. And so we call out the lies. And because we know all the lies, because God told us all the truth. And so that's something that you have to figure out first before you can go and quote minister to other people. Christ, like, you're going to go and tell people about the truth when you don't even know the truth. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Why don't you figure that out first and then go and try and teach people about things? But you're going to realize it's going to fall on deaf ears, okay? Because the Bible only ultimately is written for a group called the elect, the 144,000. And then it's a bold statement that I make that I am one. I believe that my whole life was a pruning to get me to this point where I don't hear lies anymore. I can just sense the lies. I can sense the BS from 1,000 miles away. And that took time, to get to this place. But my ears are tuned and I can see it. I can sense when somebody is truly took the Bible, opened it, believe that it's the Word of God, and then goes and teaches it, and then lives it. You can sense it. It doesn't take long at all. Okay. There are atheists who know that other people like Kenneth Copeland, all them are actors because they're just in it for the money. And so how much more are we going to know where the other elect are? Because they're going to act a certain way. They're going to really teach the Bible in a certain way. They're going to focus on certain things, that are the most relevant, to people in the times that we live in now. And that's certainly Christ's second coming, and then the wrath of God, which will happen right after that. So, I appreciate the question. It was a good trip down memory lane. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.